College football is finally here. Utah, UCLA in the Rose Bowl. Are the Utah Utes going to smash the Bruins, or is Nico and this Bruins squad going to prove the national media wrong? We're going to discuss it on today's Locked On Utes and Locked On UCLA crossover.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes and Locked On UCLA your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into our show, make sure you like and subscribe. We have a loaded show for you today. My name is JT Wister, the host of Locked On Utes. Excited to be joined by the host of Locked On UCLA, Zach Anderson Yoxsimer. Is our old Pac-12 rivalry rekindled in week one? Zach, more than anything, I'm just fired up to have football back, especially in its full week one glory.
This is an intriguing matchup between the Utes and the Bruins. And while it's late night, it's slept on, but don't sleep on this game because it'll be exciting, I think, to the end. I can't wait to have the game more than a week zero. Forget week zero. It's all about week one.
It is. It's just it's a week one's a great little appetizer. It was week zero appetizer. Week one, we get the full slate. And you mentioned sleeping on it. I think a lot of the East Coast is going to be asleep, but Tennessee fans might not be, depending on how their game goes. They might be up to try and tune in for this one too. Obviously, we know the reason they'll be watching is not in favor of UCLA in this one. But what we're going to do on the show is we're just going to break down this matchup. We're going to talk about the biggest storylines, the matchups, and give our predictions for who we think is going to win. And I think when talking about, okay, what's the biggest storyline in this game? It's cliche. I do think it's both quarterbacks, but more so than anything, it is Nico's debut. I mean, that was maybe the story of the college offseason. I just can't remember seeing a player of Nico's caliber leaving a team like after just making the playoff. That was the biggest storyline. This is his chance. It's only week one, but we do live in an overreaction world to in some ways prove all his critics wrong that say like, hey, you needed Tennessee more than Tennessee needed you. To me, the biggest storyline for this game is how is Nico going to look against Utah, and how do you think Nico's going to look, Zach?
Well, the thing that is the most interesting dynamic is UCLA's new offensive coordinator, who is a quarterback whisperer, if you will, Tino Sunseri. I've talked with Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He's been around, Tino has, and he's supposed to be somebody who can help develop Nico even more. And he wasn't supposed to have a quarterback this talented in Nico. And then Nico was like, wait a minute, everybody's saying Tennessee had an offense that was designed for him to be elevated, where secretly UCLA might have an opportunity to get him even better than people might have thought he could have been at Tennessee. Now, for week one, learning the playbook from May to August, he was on the semester system at Tennessee. UCLA is not in school. They don't start till late September. So it's not like he's juggling insane amount of academic requirements right now. He's there learning the playbook. Tino's there dialing it in. He's not the only guy learning the playbook with the rest of the offense, which could be a sign of concern. But I think if Tino is ready to go as the OC, then the Bruins will have something that is credible enough to work with a 6'6", very gifted quarterback. Didn't Kyle Whittingham, I believe, say that Nico was like Cam Newton the other day?
He did.
So like that's high praise. That is high praise. And remember, Cam Newton went to an SEC school, bounced around a little bit, and then won a national championship with Auburn. I'm not saying that's what Nico's going to do, but if you're getting compared to an MVP in the NFL, a national champion in college, that is high praise coming from Kyle Whittingham. That's the type of player I'm expecting week one.
It absolutely is. And Zach, I am curious. We'll talk about Devon Dampier in a moment. How can this UCLA offense help develop and spotlight Nico's talents in ways that the Tennessee offense last year maybe didn't?
I think the biggest thing is you have to keep him upright. And I think UCLA is probably a bit worse last year than Tennessee was at keeping their quarterback upright. Now, for Nico, it's making sure he has strong pocket reads. Don't make him go too much out of the pocket. And then it's just how much can Tino himself, who's worked with Tua, who's worked with Mac Jones, with Bryce Young, with Curtis Rourke at Indiana, can he see what Nico's strengths and weaknesses are and limit any of those weaknesses? Now, you see the numbers. A lot of those teams and a lot of the haters from the Tennessee side, the SEC, will say, he didn't do that in SEC games. Well, the lights will be the brightest Saturday night against Utah. So the biggest thing, I think, is limiting third and super long and also keeping him upright. If he has to maneuver around the pocket a lot, but there hasn't been a lot out of practice, only that a CBS Sports report was that he was special and that practice has been very hush-hush. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he comes out in his 25 week one opener.
And I'm very curious to see how Utah's quarterback, Devon Dampier, is going to come out. I don't know if there's a quarterback who's making the transition from G5 to P4 with higher expectations on him this season than Devon Dampier. Now, he was the only player in the country last year, to Utah fans. You've heard me say this a lot now, but rush for 1,000, throw for over 2,500. And he's got a number of other stats, leading college football in yards per carry, most forced from his tackles, along with John Mateer at the QB spot. Like, there's a lot of reasons to think that he's ready for this, but it is still, hey, week in and week out, well, I guess Cal Poly Wyoming, but then gauntlet of a P4 schedule, right? Like, so can you do it week in, week out, a whole off season to try and prepare and adjust to Devon Dampier as well too? I think Devon Dampier is going to have a very good game on Saturday. I'm not saying, I could definitely see him making a turnover or two, just since it is an adjustment to a slightly new personnel set, even though it is still Jason Beck's offense, his offensive coordinator back with him. But Zach, what are you expecting out of Devon Dampier? And do you think he should be striking fear into UCLA's defense, or do you think they're feeling good about this matchup?
I think UCLA's defense is in for a long day. I think the closest UCLA's faced to a dual threat quarterback like this was Washington last year, when Damon Williams Jr. came in late and just sprinted around the end contain and made UCLA's defense look a little foolish, converted some third longs, and that was before Williams Jr. had a big bowl game against Louisville to end the season. So for the Bruins, I think this might be a dip defensively this season, especially in week one, while the secondary is overhauled. A bunch of new talent, freshman transfers. So the thing is, with Dampier's 12 interceptions last year at New Mexico, that's where UCLA could stay in this game. It's not going to be because they can always dominate Utah's O-line or because they're going to stop them on the ground. It's when Utah decides to throw or has to throw, the Bruins would have to stop them in that regard. So I think Dampier is going to have a good game. I know we've been on various shows predicting this, and we've both expected Utah to score a lot of points. And I think 30 plus is a ripe number for Utah in this game. And Dampier is going to be able to run on the ground. It's, can he keep the ball in his hands secure, whether it's throwing it to his receivers or the occasional, if the ball pops out, week one craziness that might happen. If he takes control of the football and takes care of it, there's no reason to believe he won't have a dynamic day.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to have a dynamic day, and it's a chance for Nico to have one as well, too. This is a really good Utah defense, so if he's able to go out and have a big performance, that'd be big for him. Nico was a part of the reason Tennessee had success last year, but I do not think he was like the driver of the ship or the best player on that team. If UCLA is going to be successful in the Big Ten with some of the new pieces and things they have going their way, he's going to have to be, to me, one of the biggest reasons that this Bruins team is successful, and it's going to start right away with playing a team that was a top 40 defense in college football last year. Nico did not fare the best against top 30 defenses a season ago. So that's going to be interesting to see how both of these quarterbacks have grown since the end of last year. Devon Dampier's second year as a starter, but third year where he still played a lot his first year. So third year of college football. Nico, we see a lot of true freshmen make that huge leap from year one to year two. It'd be interesting to watch the quarterback battle. Do feel like that's the biggest story, but what are the key matchups that are going to decide the outcome of this game? That's what we are going to be discussing in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes and Locked On UCLA is brought to you by our friends at Upside. Hey, Locked On fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL. That's all caps, no spaces, football, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free app today, the free Upside app today, and use that promo code, all caps football, for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. This offer may vary by user and location. You can go to upside.com for terms and conditions when you check out Upside today. Today's crossover is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. with Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, you can get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Needs parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. How frustrating can it be waiting around for that next part to arrive? Well, with Supply House, they have you covered. They help get you right and get you the stuff you need fast. Make sure you head over and check out Supply House today. You can join the free Trade Master program and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCOLLEGE5. That's SH College 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service with Supply House. Also want to remind all of you who listen to this show that Locked On wants to hear from you. We've been putting together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like and what you don't and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, Zach, talk about the biggest key matchups in the game. I'm curious for you first. What do you think the biggest key matchup that UCLA needs to win in this game if they want to beat Utah?
They need to be respectable up front. It's going to be dominated by the trenches in this game. Can UCLA respectably keep themselves upright? And I'm not sure if Utah was one of the best teams at dominating the trenches on their defensive line, sacking quarterbacks, but the Bruins couldn't keep Ethan Garbers up last year. They just could not whatsoever. The starting quarterback for the Bruins in 24. If they can't keep Nico up, he's going to throw picks. He's not going to have time, and the Tennessee haters are going to have a field day, right? They're going to have the hate watchers are going to have a field day, but it won't really be Nico's fault. So it's truly, can UCLA be strong up front? And instead of putting all the pressure on Nico, can they also, with an improved O-line, run the ball? Because the Bruins were horrific last year under Eric Bieniemy, last year's OC, at running the football, which put a lot of pressure on UCLA's quarterbacks. As much as everything's on Nico, they have to be able to run the ball. And they have some dynamic players in the running back room. But if you can't win up front, I think UCLA will struggle significantly to move the ball. I don't think that's the case, but if they do, that is the place to look at.
I agree. I think this game will be won or lost in the trenches, and it's, Utah clearly has an edge there, especially on the offensive side of the ball for me. The Utah offensive line against the UCLA defensive line. Look at whatever college football list you like when talking about offensive line, top 10, top 5, whatever it may be. Utah more than likely going to be on there. They have arguably the best tackle duo in all of college football, all 5 starters back from a unit that was pretty good last season, and I think they are going to have a huge year too. And this is a UCLA defense and front 7 that's replacing a lot. You guys ended the season on such a high note last year, led by your defense, but then you lost so much of it. I think that's what's got to be one of the frustrating things for Coach Foster is you're trying to build this culture, build this momentum, and then you lose so much of what was going right for you. So, and then it's where it's big to get Nico on the offensive side of the ball. But to me, I do think that Utah's got a really good shot to establish the ground game in this one. I expect the Bruins to load the box. When you're dealing with an athlete like Devon Dampier at quarterback, Wayshawn Parker, their running back who came over from Washington State, he had over 700 yards on the ground last year. And just the size and strength that Utah has up front, you're going to need extra bodies in the box, but I'm not sure it's going to matter because there's still only so many guys you can put in there while still being mindful of pass threats, pass catchers on the outside, even if they're not the most prolific pass catchers over there. So I do think that's another thing to keep in mind here is just, hey, you can only put so many in the box. And I do think Utah is going to have success on the ground there as just getting everything going there too. So very curious to see how this Utah ground game is going to get going. But then it's also about, hey, on 3rd and longs, is Devon Dampier going to do something you talked about, Zach? Is he going to turn it over multiple times? Is he going to do a better job of taking care of the ball in this one? When I watched Devon Dampier play last year, I was very impressed overall, but I do feel like there were times he took chances that he shouldn't have. Now, granted, maybe that was because his defense was nowhere near as good as this Utah one is. So hopefully Utah, Jason Beck, Kyle Whittingham especially hates turnovers. So I think he's going to be trying to drill in his quarterback's brain not to put the ball in harm's way, but I think that there are a lot of unprovens on the outside for Utah at receiver. There's some players I like in the secondary for UCLA, but I don't know if they're proven elite corners in the Big Ten. I don't think I'd say that overall, Zach. So that's another intriguing matchup on the outside because you're going to end up in 3rd and long at different points in this game. Like that's just a fact of the situation. And I'm curious to see how Devon Dampier will perform against this UCLA secondary.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces, a new secondary coach, just about every positional coach outside of Deshaun Foster, Jerry Neuheisel, and UCLA's defensive coordinator have changed. So they have the same voice for the first time since COVID as the leader of the defense. It's just, can Coach Martin, the new leader of the secondary for the Bruins, who's brought in a lot of pieces, can they all step up? There's a lot of shifting parts in 24 on the defensive side for the Bruins, and it took them at least 6-7 games last year in Deshaun Foster's first year before they started making plays. But if you want to be a Utah, you're not playing Hawaii week 1. That's not happening. Yeah. Utah, same thing. You're not playing Cal Poly week 1. You have to make plays, and that sets the tone for the rest of the year. Are you going to get lucky on the forced fumbles and their fumble recoveries? Last year, UCLA had one of the worst luck percentages, I don't know what the right phrase is, at recovering fumbles. They weren't that good at doing so. And sometimes that's luck, and sometimes that's skill at recovering the loose balls on the ground. So the Bruins have to be good at that. And if Dampier doesn't have to take as many shots, that might be a huge advantage for him to not say, hey, let me just dump it down to Parker, who might go make a big play without needing to throw it out deep to the wideout.
Yeah, I think he's going to take better care of the ball. I will say Thomas. I will say Zach. I feel like he's going to be targeting like a Tobias Merriweather on the outside as a prolific Utah receiver, and I do feel like one time you're probably going to pick him up. I feel like this is the type of game
we both feel the same. Like I feel if UCLA doesn't pick off Dampier once, this will be a blowout. I think if UCLA's defense does not have a turnover, there's no chance this game is within 14 points. I just don't see it. But I think we're both under the same impression. There will be 3 or 4 floating ducks, if you will. You have to come down with 1 or 2 of them. The more you get, the more likely you win. You need one of them to win this game. But it seems like we're both on the same page there.
Yeah, it just feels like to me at some point Dampier is probably going to put the ball in harm's way. Well, whether that ends up being a turnover, like can UCLA capitalize on those opportunities? Utah's got that Tobias Merriweather I mentioned. I think he's a pretty good jump ball, 50-50 type target. So I think he'll have a chance to come down with it and make some plays too. So yeah, Utah's offense, because of that offensive line, probably has the advantage on that side of the ball. But then when we flip it over to the other side, can that Bruins offensive line to me keep Nico clean in the pocket? And can UCLA have a balanced offense and run the ball? I think UCLA's offensive line has a chance to be decent. There's a couple of returning starters there, but the problem is, Zach, is it's a lot of new pieces trying to come together against a Utah team and a defensive coordinator in Morgan Scalley, who I think is one of the best in the sport. You look at what he did against USC just a couple of years ago, and he's part of even Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That was Morgan Scalley back then a couple of years ago when UCLA went up to Utah for that one crazy game. So he's a very good defensive coordinator. There's some questions about who's going to get after the quarterback for this Utah team, but because of the blitz packages they can draw up, I do think because of Utah's linebacker core largely returning and having some really strong production there, thanks to a key guy in Leavani Damuni getting back from injury, I think it's going to be tough for UCLA to run the ball, and I'm curious to see what Nico's going to be able to do. Zach, I'll say this too. I think Nico's going to turn it over in his debut as well too, just working with this new receiving core. I don't love the receiving core either. No one over 400 yards collegiately in a season. That's a bit of a concern as well. I like your tight end, but he's coming off that injury. How fully healthy is he? And we talked about the offensive line coming together. If this game falls on Nico's shoulder, he didn't perform the best against elite defenses last year. So I have a lot of questions because of how new some of these pieces are for UCLA, and they got to solve them quick if they want to win at home in week 1.
The big thing is last time UCLA was able to beat Utah, they dominated the line of scrimmage. They had a very strong defensive line front, right? That was a Latu-led defensive front. That was a pretty dominant O-line with Chip Kelly in 2022 before he forgot to recruit the last few years. So we're seeing the ripple effect now in 2025. So if the Bruins can just do it enough, right? I think Utah will be able to get after the quarterback, but if the Bruins can do it for the majority of the game, a decent portion will be fine. In terms of the receivers, I think UCLA's receivers are, one, hurting from last year, just how bad the offense was. I mean, Nico is a step up from Garbers. I think there's going to be a lot of improvements, some of which were there were some injuries. And I think Quasi Gilmore's a name to look in UCLA's receiver room for him to come in. And then Titus Mokia-Atsmalala, that's a guy. But at this point, somebody's got to break out, right? In college football, you always churn out new talent. There's always new players. Maybe not a Carson Schlesinger that comes out of nowhere and dominates the Big Ten and gets a second-round NFL draft selection. But I think UCLA has enough in the receiver room talent-wise to work with Nico. But as you mentioned, chemistry. They didn't go with spring practice together. Some guys came in later. Some guys were working with one quarterback and are working with another. So that's a unique dynamic that we'll learn very early on in this game if they're in or if the routes are very simple versus complex things they can do throughout the season.
Yeah, and then we just talked about a little bit, like some of the pass catching options too. Utah is, because they're going to blitz. It's going to be one-on-one on the outside a lot. Those wide receivers, and there's a little bit of history. Mikey Matthews, not bad history, but like Mikey Matthews was at Utah. He committed there his first year. He went through the 23 season, or not 20, 23 season. Yep, 23 season, which is actually, so he did play against UCLA that year. Zach, we better not have a repeat of that game. A combined 21 points. Gosh. It set offensive football back like centuries. If it wasn't for a pick six on the first play that Utah had on now Oregon quarterback Dante Moore, like I don't know if we would have ever had a winner in that game. I don't know if we would have had to because of overtime, but like
it was what were the touchdowns? It was a pick six.
Pick six.
It was
Utah and UCLA
Moore heaving up a 4th and 15 prayer for 80 yards. Right. That was like the craziest play. Yeah. And then UCLA still had a chance to tie it, and it was like sack. You're like, at least like let him throw it once. It was just so. Yeah,
each team's offense manufactured one touchdown drive or one scoring drive. Excuse me. I think there was like a missed field goal or two throughout the game as well, but it was actually crazy. This will be Utah. They're trying to win their first game in Pasadena in 3 times. You mentioned the last time that they were out there against UCLA. They did fall to the Bruins, and of course the 2 heartbreaking Rose Bowl losses for this Utah program as well. It's been since 2018 that Utah got a win at UCLA, but can they do it? Will the Bruins defend home turf? We're going to tell you in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. The endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. There's so much going on. That's where Game Time can help you stay locked in and find the best deals. The app gives you the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fees. What you see is generally what you paid. I pulled out up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app made it super simple, and I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. A panoramic view and no hidden fees. Game Time is your place for ticket buying more simple. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. That's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. Our Pac-12 rivalry renewed. It's weird to have at this point in the season. It is still a little strange to me to think it was only 2 years ago from when these teams last played each other, Zach. Like, just so much has changed in the world of college football. I'm curious for you. I counted it up for Utah. They have about 10 to like 13 guys that played in this game, 10 that made an impact in 23, but like 12 that saw the field at various points. How many guys for UCLA from the 23 team that made an impact are going to play in this game?
Well, apparently nobody on offense, because that was a joke. And then defensively, they lost a lot to the world, because that 23 defense for UCLA was extremely good. They lost their defensive coordinator. They've lost the entirety of, their front 7 for the most part. And they've lost, it's been almost 2 overhauls in the secondary since then. So the only one I can think of is Hudson Habermill being healthy, but it's few and far between. It is, slim pickings. Deshaun Foster had to hit the portal hard, and then he had to do it again this offseason. So I think it's 2, 3. I haven't thought on the top of my head, but it's very minimal. So
yeah. Before we get to predictions, who we think is going to win, Zach, I want to know, what is at stake, would you say, for UCLA in game 1?
One, there's the Nico idea. So it'll be talked about Nico. For Nico, it's his reputation. You come out and have an ugly game week 1, it's going to be talked about for 3 to 4 weeks, because the Bruins will play UNLV, they'll play New Mexico, they'll have a bye, they'll play Northwestern. It'll be a while before the Bruins play a challenging game against Penn State in October. So it'll be a while before he can shake a bad performance off. If he comes out and plays well, win or lose, I think everybody will be like, okay, Nico, he made the right decision. For the team as a whole, UCLA would love a win. Now, they're not going to be maybe as nationally relevant as a Utah could be, because the Big 12 is much more wide open than the Big 10 will be. That's just clear as day. It just is. You saw Arizona State, worst preseason prediction, and then all of a sudden they make it to the playoff, right? Utah, we talk about Cam Rising, will he play for 2 years? Now, that's not a question they have to ask this year. I think UCLA, you win. There's a realistic world. You could start 4-0, be in the top 25, when Penn State comes to town in October. You lose this game, it doesn't kill a chance for a bowl, but it does kill the vibes for a potentially special year and a leap forward year for Deshaun Foster. Not make or break, but it is a big game for Deshaun Foster to prove he's a guy that can coach at UCLA.
You mentioned killing the vibes for a special year. Obviously, Utah can lose this game and still go on to accomplish all of their dreams. College football playoff, and more than likely that doesn't happen unless you win the Big 12 anyways, but the biggest thing being this isn't a conference game. But it's hard to feel like in a conference as open and as competitive as the Big 12, if you do lose this game, which I think is a very winnable one against a UCLA team, that if I'm going to play this version of the UCLA Bruins, I want them in week 1. I want him before Nico has a couple games under his belt in this offense, before he has the chemistry with his receivers, while the defense is still figuring things out, while the offensive line is trying to pick up the blitzes and communicate amidst the craziness of a live college football game. You can practice as much as you want. There's nothing like doing it live. And I do think that's where Utah has a good advantage in this game. But if they don't capitalize on that, then it is going to call into doubt a lot of what's been said about this team, that they are going to be at the forefront of the Big 12 conference. Maybe it will end up being, if they do lose this game, just, hey, they had a rough night in UCLA. They were better than we thought we were. But for me, I do think it's some of the bounce back and the preseason predictions and just what we think this Utah team is capable of. It's going to really be called into question if, and the culture and everything is going to be about how much of a fluke last year was if Utah doesn't come out on top, or at least look pretty good in this game, because there was a lot offensively that needed to be turned over. There's a lot of excitement and reason to believe they can, but if they can't, then there's going to be that doubt, understandably so. So we got this game between Utah and UCLA. Do you know who leads the all-time series?
Utah?
No, it's you guys.
UCLA, yes.
I looked it up with Utah.
I was like, well, because if you think about it, like as conference members, Utah really dominated that matchup. So it's a little different compared to, like, what was it? You know, there's times in my lifetime, it's felt like Utah has had more embarrassing domination of UCLA. So it feels like Utah has more. I off the top of my head, I'm like, wait, is it Utah? It feels like that. But, you know, there's just been so many times I'm like, oh, it's been an ugly game, and UCLA went to Salt Lake City, and that was ugly. You know, that's just the way.
What do you mean? 49-3, 2019. That was ugly. That one got out of hand a little bit.
It's been more than one occasion where it's gotten out of hand against the Utah Utes for sure. But
but going back to the all-time series, so it's 12-9 favor of UCLA. Utah has won 5 of the last 6, including the final. I will say, including 5 of the last 6, though, in favor of Utah. So UCLA all-time. Utah, though, 5 of the last 6, including their last game as Pac-12 foes in 23. So we get this match. We are going to get it the following year as well, too, but it's our first taste of football back for these two programs. Zach, does UCLA pull off what is viewed as an upset? According to FanDuel, Utah is favored. I think it was 5.5 the last time I checked. So Utah the favorite in this one, Zach. Is Utah going to win? Is UCLA going to pull it out? What you feeling?
I think isn't that line dropping a little bit? It seems like it's dropping a little bit closer to kickoff that we get.
It was 6 at one point. It was at least 6 and not 7.
The way my brain thinks is Utah was a big favorite on the road a few years ago, right, against Florida. Very different situation. And then things went a little bit awry, and Utah still was able to go on and win a Pac-12 title that year. For me, I think if UCLA can drum up some crazy week 1 nonsense, score a lot of points, I think the Bruins can win this game, but it has to be a shootout. There's no world in my mind where I think it's like 20-17 where UCLA wins that. I think if it's lower scoring, favors Utah. I think Utah is going to put up 32 points, and I think UCLA can put up 35 and do something stupid. Will I look like an idiot? The last 2 UCLA-Utah matchups that we've talked about, JT, my predictions have been wrong. When UCLA won and put up a bunch of points, and when they lost, then we saw nothing on the field. So it's been completely topsy-turvy. I think it could be week 1 insanity. Whether Utah is the better team at the end of the year, that might be the case. I think week 1, UCLA can put up a lot. Nico's arrogant. I mean, Nico can be arrogant on the field. Deshaun Foster's program is ready to be arrogant the way he's been preparing for this game. And I think the Bruins can prepare, but there is certainly a world where Utah can wipe the field with the Bruins. Absolutely.
There is a world. And honestly, I think in some ways that's what's going to happen. I think this is a Utah team that's really frustrated with the way how last season ended. That Kyle Whittingham wanted to go out on top. Instead, he's got to look at young hotshot Kenny Dillingham going in and winning the conference. He's just got to watch his team lose game after game because they don't have that guy at quarterback. And I think they do now. And I think his name is Devon Dampier. I think he's going to be absolutely special. Even if he turns it over once in this one, I think he's more than going to make up for it. I think he's going to have 300 total yards of offense. I think he's going to rush for 100 and throw for over 200 yards. I think the game plan, what Jason Beck is coming into, I think this is the start of Utah becoming a top 25 program in the country once again. It's been a couple years now since they've been that. I think this is when we see Utah get back to being Utah football. I think the defense and Devon Dampier are the stars of the show in this one. I see Utah establishing the run game, and that gets everything else going here. It's a classic Pac-12 after dark game, but it's going to be more Big 12 style throwdown to me in this one. I see the Utah defense really getting after Nico. I think he gets sacked multiple times, a couple turnovers, and I have the Utah Utes winning not 49-3, but I'm going to go 32-17 Utah Utes, Zach.
Yeah, I think for the first time in a few years, it seems like there's some stability at quarterback for Utah. So that can lead to a very strong year, and they'll put up points. And I think it hasn't been that's probably been the sore side for Utah if they're trying to get to a top 25 program. I still think very highly of them.
No, it's quarterback. There's no doubt about that. Like, there's other areas they can use to improve on, but quarterback has been by far the biggest one. But hey, what all that matters, regardless of our predictions, is we're almost at game time. And those of you who are watching it, we got just one more day to go. We'll each be coming at you again with another show tomorrow. Zach, this one was so much fun. And obviously, I feel like Utah's going to win. You're picking UCLA to make some magic happen. Either way, we got football back, and this is a lot of fun getting to record with you, man. Appreciate making the time.
Thanks for doing it, JT. Let's rock and roll. Football time is here.
Football time is here. A little Pac-12 rivalry renewed. That's going to do it for this Locked On Utes, Locked On UCLA crossover. If you're in the market for a second listen, you can check out friend of the show, Spencer McLaughlin's show, where me and Zach actually jumped on and had a little fun in a segment there as well too. Utah, UCLA coming soon. We each have another show left to preview it, but that's all for today's Locked On Utes and Locked On UCLA.